So we're coming from Mary Hill Winery's tasting room tonight, a night of a whole bunch of firsts. Got to hear a wonderful presentation from the man to my left, Colm. Going to share a little bit more about that next. So tonight, we're going to do things a little bit different for this week's quarterly. We've never been able to share the wonderful speakers, and tonight very well might have been the best that we've had to the quarterlies. We know not everybody can make it, whether they're in town or out of town. So following this video is going to be the presentation that Colm made to the group tonight. I can tell you, we had over 100 plus people, about 125 people. Everybody's walked away moved and inspired by that story, and we wanted to be able to share that. So stick around after that, but in this little vignette, Colm, thanks for coming tonight.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
I know you've had a lot of people come up to you.
Absolutely, I have received so many amazing, comments on my talk, and it's awesome.
So we're trying to get the people here to stick around, listen to the talk, hear your inspirational story. But for those who walked out of here tonight, and even for the people who are going to stick around and watch the video, what are two key takeaways that you would want people to take away from the story you shared?
Two key takeaways, they will take from my talk will be my journey as a refugee to U.S. What happened to me back home in Burundi, where I'm from, and the journey I took to be a refugee in Ethiopia. And living in the refugee camp for 6 years, the struggles, I faced in that refugee camp, the process, for me to come over here, that took a whole year, and with so many interviews and all those kind of stuff. And my life here in the U.S., how this community, this community received me and helped me to build, my life from scratch, and the successes that I have got. That's what they are going to hear. And in that, I'm a U.S. citizen now. It's amazing,
Yeah.
So it's good to have a place I call home now, after so many years being in the refugee camp.
So that's the story. Moving, it's long form, pause it, listen to it, 40 minutes you won't want to miss. Thank you again for coming. Thank you for becoming a part of this community. I know you inspired a lot of people in there. As we said tonight, we absolutely are about helping people build wealth, but we want them living wealthy lives, hearing inspirational stories, helping uncover that purpose and that meaning that we're all looking for. And you certainly did that for us tonight, so thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll see you soon.
Hello, everybody. How are you? Good. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. That was really cool. And I'm so excited to be here. This is amazing. Tell the person next to you, you are amazing. And so my name is Colm Nzibarega, and I'm from a small country that is found in the east central of Africa. It is called Burundi. You can see it over there on the map. Actually, you cannot see Burundi, it's just a dot, just in the middle of Africa. So it's very small. You can cross, Burundi in 2 hours drive from east to west. So it is very small. And we do have 10 million people, so it's very small. And so I was born and I grew up there. And I think you guys, have heard, the history that happened in Rwanda between Tutsi and Hutu. And so the same thing happened in my country, because Rwanda and Burundi are almost the same countries. I don't know why, we are separate. And what happened in Rwanda happened also in Burundi. And so many people, have fled the country. They become refugees all over the world. And I'm one of them. And today, I'm gonna, tell you the journey that I have to take in order for me to be here today. But before I jump into that, I'm gonna share a little bit about the Burundian, humor, because back home, we spend time in the evening with the family, and we share stories, and we entertain ourselves, with amazing stories. And those stories, sometimes they have more lessons that we can learn from, because so many people, they don't have TV, to watch movies and stuff like that. And so without delaying, I'm going to share that little story with you guys, and perhaps you are going to laugh a little bit. Yeah, in my country there was a businessman. He was from England, and he had a place where people could go for camping. And one day there was a woman who decided to go camping in that place. And before she decided to go, she was like, I want to know if the place has, enough toilets. And she was thinking, and she was like, let me write an email to the owner of the place. But she was like, I don't want to use the word toilet because the word is not appropriate. It doesn't sound great. And then she came up with an abbreviation of the word that is a non-English word, bathroom commode. But she thought, oh, this word is very long, so I'm going to use the abbreviation BC. And then she wrote to the owner saying, I want to know that your place has a BC. And then when the owner of the place, received the email, he was confused. He thought that BC stands for Baptist Church. And here is, the answer from the owner of the place to the woman. Dear Madame, we apologize for answering your letter too late. I would like to inform you that a BC is located 9 miles from the camping area. It can seat 250 people at a time. I admit that is a long distance away, but if you are in the habit of going regularly. But you will be pleased to know that a great number of people take their lunches along and make a day of it. They usually arrive early and stay late. The last time my wife and I were there was 6 years ago. It was so crowded that we had to stand the whole time we were there. I would like to say that it pains me very much not to be able to go very often. But surely not because of lack of desire on my part. It seems as you grow older, it requires more effort, particularly in the cold weather. If you decide to come camping, perhaps I could go with you and sit with you, and I will introduce you to all my friendly folks. Sincerely. So I started with this story because most of the time we can misinterpret, information or something because we are not familiar with the person, or we are not familiar with the culture of the person who is talking to us. And having said that, there are so many stories about refugees, and each person has a version of what a refugee is. So today, I'm going to share my story as a refugee, and you will go home with the right version of who a refugee is. And so, like I said, I was born and I grew up in Burundi. Burundi is known by a civil war that has been going on for years and years because of the civil war that was between the two ethnic groups, Hutu and Tutsi. In 2005, the civil war was intense. People were dying. Up to the point, the United Nations, they deployed a UN peacekeeping mission to come and help us find peace. And my country uses French as an official language, and those UN peacekeepers, they spoke English, and they needed someone to help them communicate with the local community. I speak 5 languages, and that's how I landed a job in the United Nations. I speak 5 languages, I'm smart. Working in the UN was really amazing. We were well paid, and we had, cars that are moving us, wherever we want to go, and it was really cool. I was staying in the base of the UN peacekeepers, and my job was to connect, those UN peacekeepers to the local community and ask them how a group of rebels during that time was, attacking the government and also killing people, raping women. And so my job was to help the UN peacekeepers to talk to them and see how they can protect them. I worked for 9 months, and after 9 months I had to go back home and visit my family. But what happened when I was at home was really horrible, and I almost died. I'm a runner. God has given me, a gift of running fast. And one day, during, my vacation, I was coming from a running workout, and as I reached the gate of my family's house, there was a group of people who were standing in front of, our house. And for me, I thought that it was just a group of people from the neighborhood who were just hanging out. As I reached them, they jumped on me and they started telling me that I was their enemy. I was a little bit confused because I didn't know how I was their enemy. First of all, I didn't know them. And one of them, he said, the job you have in the UN is not good for us because you are helping the UN to destroy us. That's when I realized that those guys were from the rebel groups that was attacking the government during that time. And I was kidnapped and I was taken to the jungle that was outside of the city. And in that place, I was tortured, I was beaten. So many things, have happened to me in that place. When they were trying to get more information about what the UN was planning against them. I was put in a small room in that place, which was an abandoned, house that was in the jungle. And I could not see the sunlight during the day. There was no bathroom in that room, and so they just put a little bucket, in the room, and they said, you can use that anytime you want to eat yourself. The place was stinking so bad. I lost hope in that place. I thought, this is it. And for sure, because those guys, they don't have mercy. What they did was just to kill people, and that was their job. But one day, after 7 days in that place, the UN peacekeepers and the soldiers of my country, they invaded the place. And I remember early in the morning, the place was invaded, and then I heard a noise all over the place, like a thunder, and everybody was running away. And there was smoke all over, and I managed to drag myself from that place, and I was found by the UN peacekeepers on the street, which was nearby, helpless, very weak, and they asked me what happened to me. I told them, and they were amazed, and they said, okay, you are safe, let us try to see how we can take you back home. They asked me if I could go back home at my family's house, but I told them going back was not good because that would have put myself in danger and also my family in danger. I told them that it would have been better for me to go to my uncle's house, who was living in the north of the country. So they took me over there, and like I said, my country is very small, and so after a few days, we heard that there were some people who were coming near our uncle's house trying to see if I was hiding there. And those people were some of the rebels who were tracking me down and trying to see if I'm still alive, and they didn't want me to release, information I saw in that place. And so my family, they decided to sit down and try to come up with a decision for me to be safe. The only decision they came up with was for me to leave the country and go to Ethiopia and ask for asylum. Ladies and gentlemen, Deciding to leave your country and go somewhere else to ask for asylum, it is not an easy decision to make. It is the final decision you have to make when your life is in danger. It is very hard to leave the country you grew up in, the people, the family, friends, the language that you speak very well, the food, all those kind of stuff. And you decide to leave all that behind and go to an unknown place where you don't speak the language, you know no one, no friends, nothing. So that is the decision I had to make. And so when my family came up with that decision, I was like, yes, I have to go. During that time, I didn't have a passport or any travel document because I didn't have time to look for that. And most of the refugees, they just leave their countries like that because you don't have time to apply for a visa or to find a passport and then travel. You just run away because your life is in danger. And that's how I left my country, crossed Rwanda, Uganda, Kenya, and ended up in Ethiopia. Some of you are asking, how did you cross all those borders without travel documents? Sometimes you have to do what you have to do in order to save your life. There was a friend of my family who was a businessman who used to go to Kenya with his truck. And they begged him that he could help me go with him in his truck and tell the people at the border when we're crossing that I'm his driver assistant. That's how I was able to cross and end up, in Ethiopia without being stopped at the border. And when I arrived in Ethiopia, I reported myself to the immigration office to apply for asylum. And when you do that, you have to tell them your story, and sometimes they have to verify if for sure there is something going on in your country that is pushing people to leave their countries. And I was granted the asylum, and then I was sent to the refugee camp. Life in the refugee camp is very tough. We didn't have jobs, we didn't have enough food to eat regularly. I remember sometimes eating once a day was a miracle for us. I remember many days, kids crying in the evening before they went to sleep because their parents didn't get food to give them before they go to bed. It was tough. And for me, the challenging thing was not having vision of my life. I didn't have anything to plan for my future because I didn't have a job. Because when you're a refugee, most of the time in those countries, they don't give you the work permit. It was rough. I lived this kind of life for 6 years. 6 years, no job, nothing, and starving all the time. It was painful. Until one day, a friend of mine who was also a refugee, he was from Congo, he came to me and he told me that he saw my name on the list of the people that US was going to resettle and bring over here. I remember when my friend told me that, I looked in his eyes and I said, I know you like joking, but don't try to joke about something like that. Because it was too good to be true for me during that time. Because that chance is not given to everyone. It's like winning a lottery here. And so I remember the next morning, I ran to the UNHCR office where the list was posted. And as a runner, I think I broke the world record on that distance, trying to go fast and find out if my name was really on the list. I read 10 times my name to make sure that the spelling was right. I didn't want to have false hopes, and at the end of the day, I find out it is someone else. When I found out that it was my name, I jumped. I was like, yes, I'm going to the US. At that time, I got hope and joy. And then I had to go through interviews and medical checkups, because when you are given that chance, you don't travel the next day. There's a process you have to go through to make sure that you are a safe person, you don't have any connection with terrorist groups, or to make sure that you have never done something really bad. And so for me, the process took 12 months from the day that my name was on the list. For other people, it takes longer than that. And so I came here in 2012, August 29th. I will never forget that day. It was a memorable day for me. It was like being born again, be a baby one more time. Because the process was rough. I remember some interviews, took 3 hours, 4 hours, and they had to ask you the story that pushed you to leave your country. And it was really rough, very rough. And those people who interview people, they fly from here and they go to the refugee camp. Those people are from the CIA and the Homeland and Security Department. So they fly from here and they go over there. And so on August 29th, 2012, I went to the international airport of Ethiopia, and I remember being there. I was very happy, but at the same time, I was very sad to see thousands of people I was leaving behind in that kind of hard time. I remember stepping on the plane. I felt like one part of me was already in the US and the other part of me was still in Africa. And I felt like this, the burden that was carrying on my shoulders was falling off. It was a cool moment. And all the way to US, I was crying, tears of joy, because I could not believe how someone's life can change overnight, within 24 hours. I woke up in the refugee camp, but the next day I slept in the US. That was amazing. I first landed in Los Angeles, the big airport in the world, and I was overwhelmed. I was like, I've never seen such big airport. And it was warm. In Los Angeles, it was like Africa, but I was surprised when I got here in Spokane. Yeah. I was like, this feels like, being in the fridge, Flying from Los Angeles to Spokane was amazing because we stopped in Salt Lake City, and when I was in the airport, there was a guy who was working in a fast food, store inside the airport. He saw me carrying the bag that all refugees, carry. It has, travel documents inside, and it has a logo of IOM, International Organization of Migration. And so all refugees, they carry that bag. And when you come, they tell you, never lose your bag, because that's your life. If you lose it, you lose everything. And so even when I went to the bathroom, I went with that. So he saw me carrying that, and he said, "Oh, are you a refugee?" And I said, "Yes." And he told me that he was from Iraq, but that he has been in the US for 5 years, and he spoke a good English, and he was shining, and he knew everything, and I was like, wow, that's awesome. And he told me, "I know you're hungry, you don't have money, so come in my store and grab anything you want to eat, because I know you don't have money." And I went, I grabbed, a burger and a soft drink, and then After that, he said, okay, I wish you all the best in Spokane. And I came here. That was a cool moment to see a heart of love to someone he didn't know. Simply, it is because he saw that what I was going through, he went through the same. And I was so excited to see that. And then when I showed up at the international airport of Spokane, I was received by a caseworker from World Relief who came to receive me. And when I showed up, he shouted my name. He said, "Come, welcome to Spokane." I was surprised, and I was like, "Oh wow, he has been practicing how to pronounce my name." You know. And I grabbed my bag, and then we went in the car. And then he drove me to the apartment that was already prepared for me. Because when you come, they know who is coming, and they are ready for you. And it was really cool. And I slept. But I remember in the morning, I just grabbed my eyes and think that maybe I'm dreaming, and then I'm gonna wake up and find myself in the refugee camp because I could not believe that I was in the US. And then the next day, we went to the office for paperwork and stuff. And I remember the director of the office at that time, he came and he shook my hand and he said, "Welcome to Spokane. We have been waiting for you and you are going to be successful." Those words, they brought hope in me. Why? Because I've never heard somebody telling me those words when I was in the refugee camp. Because when I was back there, being a refugee was like a curse. It was like something, being a refugee was like being useless. No one gave you value. But when I heard those words, they gave me hope. And I stood on those words for me to work hard and try to build my life here. I first worked at Walmart, and the same office helped me to get that job. I was working an overnight shift at the Walmart, which is in the valley on Broadway and Sullivan. I was working from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. It was hard because I've never worked at night, and my body was always saying, "You better go sleep because, this is tough, you know." But I worked so hard to give back to this nation that has given me much. I had that job for a year, and working at Walmart was a big, opportunity for me to be familiar with all the food we have here. I remember it took me a while to memorize names of food and know where they go on the shelf, and it was amazing. And I remember customers will come and say, "Hey, can you take us, to the cereal aisle?" And I will be like, "Oh yeah, I know." And it was really cool. But before I didn't know what cereal aisle was, and it was like, I don't know. So now I can just go to Walmart and close my eyes and know where everything goes. It was really cool. And so I worked there for a year, and after that, the same agency that helped with my resettlement, they gave me a job to be a caseworker and help other refugees who are coming. Helping refugees was really amazing because I felt like my hands were touching the entire planet, because we receive refugees from all over, from Middle East, Africa, Russia, South America, everywhere. And I got, connected to those people, and they have amazing stories, they have rich cultures, and they have a lot to share. And we refugees, we are very resourceful, because when we come over here, we don't mind what our first job is going to be. We just want something that can help us to provide for our family. Because when you come here, you are required to find a job within 6 months and then be self-sufficient. Those who say that we refugees, we are just here and We are getting free stuff. I would say I need those free stuff as well, because you have to work hard and earn your own income and pay the bills like anybody else. Even the ticket that we get, for flying over here, we have to pay it back. So now I have already paid my ticket, but we have to pay it back, and that money goes back to help refugees who will come again. That's how it is. And that helps you to build your credit once you get here. So that is your first loan. And so there's no free stuff. So I worked at that office helping refugees I worked there for 3 years. And then after that, I decided to go back to school. And that's how I chose Whitworth University, and I went to pursue my education. During that time, I had to leave the job because it was full-time, and I could not go to school and then work full-time. It was hard. And I tried to find a part-time job and then go to school in the evening. That's how I got a job at Northwest Christian, where I teach French right now. And then I went to school in the evening, and then I graduated last year. And that's how I met the gentleman who introduced me today. So it has been 6 years here in Spokane, and I love this community. It has helped me a lot to achieve what I have achieved. But when I look back, I have learned that refugee camps are the richest places in the world, because there you find songs that will never be sung. You find books that will never get an opportunity to be written. You find movies that will never get an opportunity to be produced and watched. You find amazing inventions, things that are stuck in those people, because no one is here on earth by accident. We all have something to offer here on earth. And those people, they are trapped in those refugee camps. Imagine all that potential that could give us the solution for the problems that we are facing today. And as a matter of fact, many influential people were refugees. Even Albert Einstein was a refugee. If you see today, so many technology companies like Google or Apple, those big giant companies, you find them, the co-founders were refugees or immigrants, but they have done amazing things. Steve Jobs, he was adopted by the Jobs family, but his dad was from Syria. But now we are enjoying, the iPhone. That's why I'm saying that the refugee camps, they have potential that could make our society and our country an amazing place. And so, how can we help those people who are in the refugee camp? How can we unlock the potential that is trapped inside of them? I think one way it is to open a door and bring more people like me and bring them over here. Because I truly believe that when you help somebody who was broken like me, who didn't have anything, and you help him and bring him over here, he become again a teacher, an athlete, a speaker, like I am today. And so I challenge you to stretch your hand and do something to those people when you get an opportunity. Because when they come over here, some of them, they open businesses, they work hard, and they contribute a lot to the economy of our city and the entire country, like I'm doing today. What is the story we want to leave behind for our kids when they grow up and ask, what did you do during that time when there was a refugee crisis? What did you do? Are we going to tell them, no, we closed our doors because they were dangerous and we didn't want them to come over here? But I think the better story that will inspire our kids will be, we help them and now see what they have become. I think that is the better story we should leave behind. And those who think that refugees are dangerous, I would say that refugees are not dangerous. The dangerous person is that who made me to leave my country. So think twice and do something. Help those people to unlock their potential. Thank you very much. May God bless you, and may God bless America. Thank you. Thank you.